You put the spousal consent issue on the table. Amy, everybody, it's almost unfair. If you work for the National Women's Law Center, you have to address the spousal consent issue. So I'm going to just let you give remarks to both Jeff and Jean again, and then.
So I'll take this, as you said, National Women's Law Center has women in the title, and that gives you a good idea of where I'm heading. So this is a really important opportunity for me to be part of this conversation that I appreciate, because annuities are incredibly important to women. Longer life, fewer assets in retirement, so having a guaranteed source of lifetime income is incredibly important for older women. Social Security obviously being the foundation of that, which keeps so many elderly women out of poverty. So that being said, because annuities and lifetime income are so critical for women, to flag a couple of questions, particularly about the Financial Engines product, because it comes outside of the qualified plan arena. So first, to deal with women as workers, even though women are increasingly a part of the workforce, and we are privileged and delighted to see so many successful women who are accumulating their own retirement assets through working. That being said, there's a huge lag in what women earn compared to men. Part of that can be due to time spent out of the workforce, part-time work, and then the wage gap that exists. So even though women are catching up in participating in the workforce, they're earning less, and then they're, for those reasons, accumulating less for retirement, and they're also possibly more likely to be using retirement assets that are saved through employers when they leave for other emergencies that they need because of the snowballing lack of income. So one of the really positive aspects of qualified plans through ERISA is that annuities that are purchased through DB plans are going to be, there's no sex discriminatory pricing. So I just want to flag that as one of the issues that arises when you are buying annuities on the open market that affects women more than men. The other piece of women's retirement security, and in addition to their own work history and their own assets that they accumulate on their own behalf, is that women are still more likely to rely on a spouse's benefits than men are. And so for that reason, in DB plan context, ERISA's requirement that a married participant default form of benefit as a joint survivor is one of the things that's increased women's retirement security. So when we're outside of the qualified plan world, one of the questions is, how is a product or a service like Financial Engines dealing with what may be marital assets, community property assets, or just the lifetime income of a family rather than of a participant, be that participant male or female. So thanks.
I think you have to go right to that. It's well stated. Jeff, I'm sure you've thought of this, so please give us some. I think she did it well, since it's coming outside of the plan world.
Yeah, so far our service, the Income Plus service, is available within qualified plans. So it's for 401ks, there's already existing beneficiary rules. They don't have rules around joint and survivor, obviously, and so it is the participant who can name a beneficiary if they die, but otherwise it's their money. Currently, the way we have it set up is if a male uses the Income Plus service, the amount that we set aside, and we're not making an opinion on, we just want to make sure there's adequate funds to purchase an annuity to keep that level at age 85 if they want to. We take the median price in the retail market. It's going to cost a bit more for the female, so we set a little bit more aside to make sure that they don't have a step down. We have not yet, but have got a lot of interest in allowing the ability to configure this so that a family could say, this might be just one person's 401k, but we want to set this up so there's a joint survivor on the back end, not single life. Very, very straightforward to do, as you could imagine. One of the things that we're really excited about is the prospect of leveraging the defined benefit plans, both the rules but also the scale and the joint and survivor nature of a lot of these benefits, to say if companies were so interested, and if policies allowed for flexibility in terms of using pieces of the DB and pieces of the DC, you could imagine a company saying, we will provide access on a joint and survivor basis to that tail end for you through our plan. You'll get the buying power, you'll get the protection, you'll get the joint and survivor character, and in a sense, Income Plus now just has a very nice institutional back end to it. I do want to go back to Social Security on the front end. We have heard from our customers an absolute lack of understanding about who really benefits if you defer Social Security. It's the one who lives longer that really benefits the most, particularly if the one who lives longer has made a lot less in his or her lifetime. It is a very, very important issue. And we think a huge part of being independent and providing services to folks is actually helping them understand. It's like health issues. If you don't understand it's an issue, you won't even know it was a decision that you needed to make. But we think that being able to talk to a family about the long-term consequences of pushing back Social Security for a year or two on the surviving spouse, it's one of the most important, for our clients who don't make much money, it's one of the most important decisions they can make. And no one is educating them on that, and we believe it's our job to educate them.
Jean, do you have a reaction to?
I just want to add, because we started to discuss different income groups and different women versus men. In Social Security, the delayed retirement options are even better for women than men, just simply because, on average, because of the longer life expectancy, which is another reason, which also gets to your surviving spouse, which is more likely to be the woman than the man. So if there's a couple, it's also very, very, very important. We've also done some work in terms of lower income employees. It turns out that the annuitization, now I'm assuming at least average life expectancy are not too much shorter than the average life expectancy, often does much more for the lower income worker than it does for the higher income worker. And the simple reason is because the higher income worker often has a lot of additional saving. And so that additional saving means that delaying retirement doesn't proportionally raise the retirement income as much as it does for the worker who's basically only dependent upon Social Security or mainly dependent on something like Social Security. So there are issues to be discussed in terms of lower income workers, women, and other groups, but I would say that in almost all cases, there are some exceptions, but in almost all cases, the delaying of retirement is even more important for those groups, the groups that are likely to have less assets and income than it is for others, with the one exception being those people who are in weaker health, where if you're in weaker health, you don't want to annuitize. And there, I think the answer is just on a different front. And that's not the discussion today, but as Steve knows, going all the way back to the National Commission on Retirement Policy, I think I'm the person who originally pushed for really trying to do something on a minimum benefit and within Social Security, and almost every commission has done something there. So you can't solve every problem with what we're discussing today. We're discussing how to get people to annuitize better, which I think for the vast majority of people is worthwhile. The vast majority of women and even lower income people, it's more worthwhile. But it doesn't solve every problem. For other groups, you've got to go to other issues such as, which isn't on the table today, such as, let's say, minimum benefits and Social Security, which guarantees some minimum level no matter what for some of these lower income people with weaker health.
Can I just make one observation? Even today in defined benefit plans where the annuity is the default form of payment, you have to have spousal consent to elect anything else. The vast majority of plans, if they already offer a lump sum benefit, the rules today, that can't go away. You can't take it away under the anti-cutback rule. And the vast majority of participants are still electing the lump sum, which requires spousal consent. So the nice thing about these proposals and the flexibility that's out there is if you are starting with the point that spouses are consenting right now to a lump sum option, which has a lot of leakage. This is something else that maybe they could consent to that actually is a way for them to get more protection on the downside.
Before I bring Mark on to make a comment, Jeff, would you also comment on the lower income worker that Jean raised? And there was an interesting statistic that Seth used in introducing you about the size of many of your clients.
Yeah, so people are shocked that we are the largest registered investment advisor in the country. We're growing faster than anybody, and we're doing it by helping millions of people who have very small accounts. And that's a really important part of our objective and our goal, and we look to the problems. And I'll tell you what's interesting, other than tax-related issues, is unfortunate. It's harder to solve this problem if you don't have much money. The hardest retirement income problem faced in America today are the people who don't have enough money, not the people who have too much. You think really wealthy people buy a lot of annuities? They're self-insuring, and they're bequeathing it to their heirs. This is a perfect example of the middle class and folks who don't have a lot of money, unfortunately, finding the hardest challenge in front of them. And so we think they need the biggest help, and so we're trying to help them out. And as it turns out, a lot of people think about 401ks, and it's a logical comment to say, gosh, most people's 401ks are so small, you can't get much of an annuity out of that anyway. A lot of people, what they're thinking is, I just need enough money to have some flexibility. Because, people's health, and it's not always about buying bass boats. A lot of leakage happens because people want flexibility in a world that is increasingly uncertain. Their medical benefits are being taken away, and they don't know how they're going to pay for this. And so they're wanting to have some money set aside in case something bad happens. And so we say, how much money do you have to have sort of as an emergency? But beyond that, how can you make the most of what's left? We think one of the most important decisions a lot of people could make with their 401k after they hold back a little bit for flexibility is to use it to defer Social Security. It's the best way to increase their retirement income for them and especially their surviving spouse. It might turn out that one of the biggest benefits of 401ks, believe it or not, is for people to defer Social Security. That might turn out to be, if we could educate people, that might be one of the best things they can do.
And I see Mark trying to get in here.
Can I just ask just a quick question on this? Would it be easier for you on the planning stage if instead of having to explain a long thing, well, if you defer Social Security for 6 months at 10,000, that's 60, and it'll come in this way, you could just say, let's take 60,000 of your 401k. If Social Security would just let you take 60,000 of the 401k and do that right away, and then they just see this, they would think the Social Security check was just coming in normally. Would that be easier for you to plan and cheaper?
Yeah, I think at this point, we're not far enough in yet to really having all the discussions with folks about this. We as a business, I give Bill Sharp a lot of credit. I mean, he was keeping track of a lot of the behavioral finance guys in a time when they thought he was just Mr. Theoretical. He's always been a huge believer in the practical reality of people's behavior when it comes to investing. And what we've always learned at Financial Engines, the way you show something, the way you frame it, the way you communicate it, even the way you unfold the narrative. And there's a lot of good research on Social Security framing. The way you frame Social Security decisions have a huge impact. And what we always try to do is to play within the rules that we're given. So we'll find the best way that we can to communicate the way it is now. It may very well be the case that having a different way to be able to take it could allow us to tell it in a different story that makes people say, I want that. That feels like a deal, whereas that thing feels like a sacrifice. So I don't know yet, but it might be the case.
Karen, your panel is rewriting the rules right here. So, Mark, you have helped us get this conversation going.
So further to Jean's and Jeff's discussion, for those of you here who are deeply involved, which is lots of folks, in the 401k sponsorship and servicing, a Social Security supplement option, which we are familiar with in the defined benefit universe, that tops up, gives you a limited term installment payout between the time you retire and the time Social Security begins, generally geared to the level of Social Security so that it will create a kind of continuous income stream from the time the person retired from the firm, the plan sponsor, and before they started Social Security benefits. And then that stops and it ratchets down to some lower level so that when you combine the pre-Social Security onset years with the post-Social Security onset years, you're getting a kind of a level total result or pattern. In a 401k, if you offered a Social Security supplement installment payout, wouldn't have to be an annuity, setting aside the whole interest we have in promoting availability of annuities in the account balance universe. If the installment was from the date the person stops working or wants to start their benefits, assuming it's after age 59 and a half, so there's no penalty, and it goes until 70, on the theory that, as Jean's propounding, it would be better for most people to delay Social Security till 70. But the 401k sponsor doesn't want to push anybody in that direction. Hopefully, they'll be willing to connect people with education about that. But what might be behaviorally interesting is if that plan option is on the table so that people have something concrete to look at. Here's how the plan will help you delay the onset of Social Security. We'll have an installment payout that ends at age 70. Why age 70? That unfolds the narrative. I'm interested in whether people think that's workable, whether people have tried it. I've certainly, since talking with Jean occasionally about this Social Security claiming issue, and also talking with Steve and others at Social Security about it, and how you guys have changed the script and changed the framing that the Social Security agents do, though the implementation of that change may still have a ways to go, as I understand it, but the script itself has changed. Is the 401k able to assist with that by framing an option of that kind, like a Social Security supplement?
Just want to clarify, you don't have to do it to 70. You can do it to 63 and 64, and it's still a tremendous benefit. Same question.
Right, right. So I'd be interested in people's reactions, whether now or later, to that question, and whether, you know, whether there are downsides for the 401. Is there any reason for a 401k sponsor not to do that? Obviously, some sponsors will be very wary of getting too deep into advice about when to claim your Social Security benefits, but you don't have to. The sponsor doesn't have to presumably get deep into that advice. Can connect people with materials and advisors, but what you've done is to put the issue on the table. If you offer an installment payout that stops when someone starts Social Security, but particularly on a delayed basis.
Great. Jeff, did you have a quick reaction? And
yeah, just really quickly, even before there's any sort of a formal sort of option like that, we've been receiving a lot of interest from our customers, our plan sponsor customers, who know that people could benefit in this way. We will essentially be framing it that way. We will be creating the installments by virtue of the way we create that income flow there. So we will say there's a way that we can manage this, bridge the gap, et cetera, et cetera.
Right.
If there's a more formal package that's offered as part of the Social Security program, that might make it easier to sell. But we'll be learning about this because there's a lot of interest in us doing this.